In the late 1960s, the U.S. Army built a helicopter so fast, so advanced, and so heavily armed that some believed it could replace entire formations of conventional aircraft. It could fly faster than many airplanes. Its gunner could aim weapons simply by looking at a target, and, for a brief moment, it appeared to be the future of battlefield aviation. Instead, it became one of the most expensive dead ends in military helicopter history. But without that failure, one of the most successful attack helicopters ever built might have never existed. This is the story of the AH-56 Cheyenne and the helicopter that replaced it.
Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger.
I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. When most people think of attack helicopters, one aircraft usually comes to mind, the AH-64 Apache. Its silhouette has become instantly recognizable around the world. It has served in combat for decades and remains one of the most feared battlefield weapons ever created. But the Apache wasn't the Army's first attempt at building the ultimate attack helicopter. To find that story, we have to go back to Vietnam. During the 1960s, Army planners faced a growing problem. Transport helicopters could move troops quickly across the battlefield, but they needed protection. The solution seemed obvious. Create a dedicated helicopter gunship capable of escorting those vulnerable transports. The result was the Lockheed AH-56 Cheyenne. And it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. At first glance, it looked as though engineers had combined a helicopter, an airplane, and a science fiction movie prop into a single aircraft. The Cheyenne featured a rigid four-bladed rotor, short wings, and a massive pusher propeller mounted at the rear. At low speed, it behaved like a helicopter. At high speed, it behaved almost like an airplane. As velocity increased, the wings began carrying much of the aircraft's weight while power shifted to the rear propeller. This unusual arrangement allowed the Cheyenne to reach nearly 250 miles per hour, far faster than conventional helicopters of its era. For Army planners, it seemed like the perfect solution. The aircraft could escort troop transports, attack ground targets, and rapidly move around the battlefield. Inside the cockpit, the technology appeared equally futuristic. The front gunner's station could rotate with the sighting system, allowing the gunner to remain oriented towards targets while tracking and engaging them. Test pilots frequently praised the aircraft's performance. Many believed they were flying the future, but aviation history is filled with machines that looked revolutionary on paper, but proved far more difficult in reality. The Cheyenne soon began encountering serious problems. Its advanced, rigid rotor introduced aerodynamic issues that engineers struggled to fully solve. Then tragedy struck. In 1969, a catastrophic rotor failure destroyed a prototype and killed test pilot David Beale. The accident raised new questions about the aircraft's complexity and safety. At the same time, developing costs continued climbing. The Army, Congress, and the Air Force all had opinions on what military aviation should look like, and the Cheyenne increasingly found itself caught in the middle of political battles as much as engineering ones. By the early 1970s, the situation had become difficult to defend. Despite years of development and enormous investment, the helicopter still faced technical challenges and mounting costs. In August of 1972, the Army canceled the Cheyenne. On paper, it was a failure. But sometimes, the most important aircraft in history are the ones that never succeeded. Because almost immediately, the Army launched a new competition. This time, the requirements were different. Vietnam was winding down. Military planners were increasingly focused on Europe and the possibility of a massive Soviet armored assault through places like Fulda Gap. The Army no longer needed a high-speed helicopter escort. It needed a tank killer, a machine that could hide behind terrain, strike armored formations, and survive on a modern battlefield. The Advanced Attack Helicopter Program was born, and from that competition emerged the AH-64. If the Cheyenne had been designed as a sports car, the Apache was designed like a prize fighter. Speed became less important. Survivability became everything. The Apache carried extensive armor protection. Critical systems were duplicated. The crew sat in tandem cockpits, separated by protective structures intended to improve survival if the aircraft was hit. And, unlike the Cheyenne, the Apache was designed around a very specific mission: destroying enemy armor. Its most famous feature became the 30mm M230 chain gun mounted beneath the fuselage. Using the integrated helmet and display sighting system, the gun could follow the pilot's head movements. Look at the target, move your head, the cannon follows. It still sounds futuristic today. Then came combat. In January 1991, during Operation Desert Storm, Apache crews were given one of the most important missions of the war. Before coalition aircraft could enter Iraqi airspace, 2 radar sites had to be eliminated. Flying low through the darkness alongside Air Force Pave-Low helicopters, the Apaches approached their targets undetected. At precisely the right moment, they launched their Hellfire missiles. Within minutes, the radar sites were destroyed. A corridor had been opened through Iraqi's air defense network. The air war had begun. The Apache had proven itself. Over the decades that followed, the helicopter continued evolving. A modern AH-64E model can work directly with drones, receive battlefield data from multiple sources, and use longbow radar systems capable of tracking large numbers of targets while remaining partially concealed behind terrain. Ironically, many of the lessons learned from the Cheyenne's failure helped shape that success. The Army discovered that speed alone wasn't the answer. Sophisticated technology wasn't enough. The battlefield needed a helicopter optimized for a specific mission, and that's exactly what the Apache became. In the end, the Cheyenne and the Apache represent 2 very different versions of the future. One tried to become something entirely new. The other focused on doing one job exceptionally well. The Cheyenne never entered service. The Apache became a legend. But without the risks taken by Lockheed's engineers and test pilots during the Cheyenne program, the Apache we know today might never have existed. Sometimes the aircraft that changes history isn't the one that wins. It's the one that teaches everyone else what comes next. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.